Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Dinero session of today, which we are incredibly excited about because we have an awesome host. Our topic is how to turn your hobby into a real business, and we have the amazing Brittney Castro. Welcome, 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 Brittney. We're so excited to have you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I think you and I met I was trying to think 5 years ago. It's
I
been
heard
in
you
Miami.
I heard you speak at a conference and I was like, who is she? I need to be her friend. She's amazing. So I'm so
Vice
excited to
versa.
have this collaboration along with our friends from QuickBooks. It's going to be an incredible session. We have so much to cover. For the people participating today who don't know me, my name is Beatriz Acevedo. I am the co-founder and CEO of SUMA Wealth. And this is a digital wealth building platform to help our community, todos los Latinos, build wealth faster for themselves and for their families. So we're very excited that you are here. And this is a very special session for all the entrepreneurs that we have in our community. As we know, it is particularly Latinas who are launching more companies than anybody in this country. So I know this is going to be an incredible session that has so many incredible tips and tools and ideas on how we grow our companies faster, even if we only have an idea yet and we haven't taken that step into launching our company. So we're going to get going. I'm going to start by letting you guys know what we are going to be talking about. We're going to be discussing incredible things in this session, making a business blueprint, which is very, very important, as you will learn, or you might already know. Giving your business a name, or it's almost like giving it a bautizo, something similar to that. How to streamline bookkeeping. Oh my gosh, that is so important because I remember I'm older probably than most of you who are watching. And I remember having files and files and files of all these like invoices and things in the past. And now none of that is necessary with digital bookkeeping. And we are going to be talking a little bit about that as well. Avoiding colchones full of money. This is my favorite. No more money under the colchones or inside like that coffee tin. None of that, right? Like you were never going to beat inflation. Your money inside a colchon or in a bank account or invested is never going to be the same. So we have to address this topic dead on, head on. Today we will talk about that. And then obviously how to get the most out of your business, because we all want to know how to get the most out of our business. We encourage everybody here to go to our chat and put in your questions, and then we will be addressing them at the end of the session. We're going to get through our questions that we got previous to this session, and then we will address whatever other questions you might have. Does that sound good to you, Brittney?
Sounds wonderful. We got a lot to go over.
We got a lot to go over in just 1 hour, so I'm going to get going.
Yeah.
Okay, the first topic, making a business blueprint. Okay, as we know, a business plan is a critical part of running a business, right? But not all of us. I didn't have a business plan in my first company. I had no idea, right? So I would have loved to have been in this session 40 years ago. But right now, for people who are considering launching a business or they have their business and they want to know how do they start, like how do they do a business blueprint? What would you recommend?
Yeah, I know. I feel like kind of the same. Like I wish I had this like 10 years ago when I was starting my company. So with the business plan, I feel like sometimes it can get complicated and maybe even like overwhelming for a lot of entrepreneurs. So I think keeping it simple is very key. Like the main elements is you want your mission statement, obviously the objective of your company or business. Like what is it that you're doing? What do you stand for? I would say another big piece that you want to do is your market research and just figure out like who are your competitors? Are there any competitors right now? And if so, what are they doing well? And maybe what are they doing not so well that you could fill the gap for the customer or the client that you're trying to serve. You also want to know who is that ideal customer or client. Like I actually do something called an ideal client avatar where I create that I want my company to service or sell the products to. So I think knowing who your customer is, not only like from like the amount of income they have or the type of person they are, but like what are their interests, what are their hobbies, what kind of magazines do they read, what do they talk about with their friends and with their family, what is their biggest pain point, what are their pleasure points, like knowing them as a person, right? Because we all know business is so personal nowadays that if you don't know them as a person, it's going to be very hard to stand out in the marketplace. And then obviously talking about money, you need to know your revenue goals. Like it's not a business if you're not making money, right? So as passionate as you are, or like a mission statement heavy as you are, if your business isn't profitable, it's not a business. It's a hobby, and it's not going to work long term. Either you're going to suffer, or eventually it's just going to drain you from all your energies because you won't be able to sustain a lifestyle. So really know, what is it, like big picture, what are you trying to make as a company? But also I like to filter it too to the individual person. Like what kind of income goals do you need as the business owner to have this business work for you? You know, you don't want to, we all know it's hard enough running a business, but you don't want to be like struggling for ever. You know, you want to eventually make enough money to live a good life for yourself and take care of yourself, that so you can continue to run the business. And then from there, you can just work the marketing plan and like the strategy, right? How are you going to sell? How are you going to get your name, your product or service out there in the marketplace? And although this does sound very complex and overwhelming, I just really want to encourage people, keep it simple. Like it really could be a 1-page, 2-page document, main bullet points. I think me in the beginning, I probably went overboard, 10 pages per section. It was too much. I mean, it is like, eventually you get to a point where like, I just need to know the basics, and focus on the basics is actually key when you're launching the business plan behind it.
Right. We have a few questions already in the chat and in the Q&A, which there are some of my questions too, because it does sound overwhelming, right? As you said, just think about your mission statement and just build your revenue goals. People are like, well, where do I start building my revenue goals? So some of the questions are like, do you know of any online resources or any other resource that people could be like, okay, here's a guideline, or who can help me work through this? Because even doing a mission statement, I know there are people who take days or weeks working through a mission and a vision statement. And I find that so crucial, because it's like that North Star that whenever you need to make a hard decision, you're like, does this fit in my mission, in what I wanted the company to stand for, to be about? And if you don't have that clear, there's a lot of confusion. Obviously, your revenue goals, so critical. What name, so critical. So many things that I think that even for somebody that has that entrepreneurial spirit, or as Latinos, we have such incredible DNA of being entrepreneurs, it's very overwhelming. So any ideas of resources, either online or in person, that anybody listening here could be like, okay, I'm going to go and try to get help there?
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of books, and I'm sure like online courses if you look in the area. But I would even just say the SBA, the Small Business Administration, SBA.gov, a website, has a lot of resources, and I believe they even have templates and people to help you with some of these steps. So if you don't take like some sort of online college class, do it, or read a book to help you do it yourself, you can also just go there, I would say, because those resources like you're talking about, to be almost like a mentor or just like hold your hand as you go through it. But I like you're saying, it can be overwhelming, because everything does have to like come back to this business plan when you're making decisions. Like it is kind of your North Star and helps you filter your decision making. But also I think too, as we all know, it's like you don't want to get stuck, it's never going to be perfect. And also I've been in business long enough, it's like, oh, you create a business plan and then you got to like pivot and turn. So like also just don't get too stuck on it being perfect and you know every answer, because you're also going to learn and fine tune as you go. I mean, you definitely want an outline or a blueprint, but then it also just keep going, like keep moving and just get started is probably more important.
Absolutely, because you're going to learn so much as you go, right? They always say done is better than perfect. So that's incredible advice. Done is better than perfect. Another resource that I really love for people who are asking, as I think the SBA is an incredible one, is the Latino Entrepreneurship Program out of Stanford. They have free resources. I mean, if your business is big enough, there's a whole program that you can take. that actually is subsidized, which is amazing, just for Latino entrepreneurs. I was able to take it a few years back, but they have the courses ready and they have the classes recorded and they constantly have seminars. So that's another great place for you guys to take a look at. It's called LBAN, Latino Business Action Network, and it's through the Stanford program. And it's just for Latino entrepreneurs, no matter your size. And they have a whole series of classes that actually we're going to be curating those courses for free. We're going to have them available in our SUMA Academy. So for anybody that wants to go to the Stanford site via LVAN or just directly to us, we're going to have that available, because we hear so much like we need more help than just us doing it on our own. Okay, great. Well, listen, we have a lot to cover, because this was just sort of like la botana, right? The appetizer of everything that we're going to talk about business plans. We're going to get much more in depth. But we want to hear from everybody here. We would love to hear from the chat. Why do you guys think it's important to have a business plan? And we want to encourage participation. So as you guys know, we're going to be giving away 1 year subscription to QuickBooks, thanks to QuickBooks, obviously. And it's going to be 10 winners today. Well, you'll be notified tomorrow. But the more you participate, the more you up your chances to getting this free subscription to QuickBooks for 1 year. And once we're done in this hour, you'll see why it's so critically important, if you're not already doing your books with QuickBooks, of why like that is a game-changing moment when you switch from like paper to digital. So we'd love to hear from you guys. Why do you think it's important to have a business plan? Why have you seen it, or just from what you've heard, you think, yeah, this is important because I haven't done so-and-so? We'd love to hear from you. So please, please, please participate in the chat as we get going. The second objective that we're going to talk about when you're launching a business or you want to turn your side hustle into your full-time business is picking a name and registering your business. And we've been sort of like equating that to Bautizo. But you know, it's very important to name and register both things. Because you can name it and then you don't register, and then all of a sudden somebody's like, wait a second, I have that name, right? So it's important that you do both. So can you share a little bit with us, Brittney, from your experience, why is having the right name important, and should a business be registered with a state? And if you have to match the same state that your business is in, for example, SUMA, we have it in a different state than where our office is. And that sometimes is confusing to people. But if you don't mind giving us your point of view about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think with the business name, first, it's always important to find a name. I always think like long-term, right? That is going to be like a legacy name, not only that you like, but it's going to be able to sustain. Because when you launch a business, whether you're thinking about it or not, in the beginning, the idea is to eventually have some sort of exit from the business, right? So sell it to a buyer, an investor, where then you like make a profit and are able to retire, or maybe pass it to your children and the next generation, and they're able to sustain this business, you know, or like get, you know, merge with another business. But the idea is like with a solid name, one, there's that legacy of it, of your company being able to like be a legit company that can last through the decades and give you that proper exit strategy, whatever it might be. And also, I just think it's good for like brand awareness, right? We all know like this is a world that operates on brands. Like everything is, do you know this brand? Do you know this name? Do you know this company? And it has to be, to me, in the marketplace, like something that is easy for people to hear, to say, to relate to, you know, so don't make it too complex where people are like, what? I don't even understand,
yeah,
or it's too long. Yeah, it's too long of a name, or it's too similar to something else that's already out there. So I remember when I was thinking about my company name, Financially Wise, actually I just put a lot of words together, like financial related words, you know, and eventually after many iterations, Financially Wise was like the winner. And I just thought, oh yeah, that's a name that could change. So even if I change services or products, like Financially Wise would always be the umbrella, and that's easy to understand. Well, and obviously has something to do with money and finance and education. So for me, that was kind of the process. And then, like you said, when you're choosing a name, you want to make sure nobody else has that name. So you check Secretary of State to see if the name has already been registered, to make sure it's free and clear. Then usually you want to buy the
and you can check online, right?
Yeah, you can check online, go to Secretary of State search. And then usually with a DBA, so that's like something you want to do next is register the name to do business as. That's what a DBA means. It doesn't mean that you're incorporated. So as a DBA, that's just saying your name is now an official business. And that's usually what you need to open up the bank account in the business name and, get all of that registered. So there's resources online. Either you go to the county clerk or the Secretary of State and figure out what you need to do to get the DBA for your business. What else can I say? Oh, and then the structure of your business. Then that's a whole different subject, right? How do you structure your business? Do you keep it as a sole proprietorship? Do you incorporate into an LLC or an S corp? If you're a company that will eventually maybe go public, then you'll think about a C corporation. These are just different business entities that you might decide to do depending on the type of business you are, the amount, how many owners there are, how much liability protection you need. But I would say most people, they start as a sole proprietor, meaning you just have this business, it's under your name, you register the DBA, so it's official as a business. But then the liability is still connected to your personal financial life. So eventually you're going to get to a point where maybe you want to incorporate to give you more liability protection, which is a whole other conversation. But it is important, and I know it can get confusing for people to figure out what kind of entity do they choose.
Yeah, and you can always switch later, right? So
Yeah.
if you go DBA, which I've done before, instead of me sending an invoice as Beatriz Acevedo, I'm now like DBA as, I think I had a company called like On the Go Rentals, which was like the rental side of my production company, but I wanted to have it separate for tax purposes. And then now it looks a little bit more official that you're sending that invoice, On the Go Rental, instead of me personally be renting like my cameras or my equipment. But then eventually that turned into a bigger production company. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to do an LLC. Eventually that grew more and I turned it into a C corp. So you can always upgrade. And that's the okay part. So you don't have to stay there forever. You can go pasito a pasito, and it also tends to be less expensive, right? If you do just like a DBA, it's much less expensive than if you have to do a C corp or an LLC. And then that's where you can get guidance. You can talk to an accountant, an attorney, or then again, all these courses that are available to you guys. Take advantage of them. There's a lot of free resources that we will continue to provide, but aside of whatever SUMA has, I know there's a ton in the ethos of the internet that you can take advantage of. But it is important when you're talking about liability, because sometimes these are just big words, right? It's like, what does she mean with that? And I think I'm going to give an example, a few examples coming up, but particularly is if you have for example, if you have a lot riding on the business and there's a potential that somebody could get hurt or somebody could sue you or something like this, you want to protect your assets. So if you own a home and something happened work-wise and you're the sole proprietor, then they can go after whatever you own personally. That if you had set it up separately, right, as an LLC or as an S corp or C corp, then that's protected in a separate way. So I think that's what we mean when it's like depending on the business and depending on the assets that you have and depending on how much you want to protect them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, you can change, like upgrade. So if that all just sounds so overwhelming, maybe you don't have the home yet, many assets, and you're just starting something, you could keep it as a sole proprietor, which means technically when you file your tax return, it just goes under your Social Security. But the moment you decide to get like an LLC or an S corp or even a C corp, then you have to work with an attorney, draft those corporate documents, which takes money. Then you just also have to remember, then I always like to say it kind of like splits you now, right? So here you are with your personal financial life. And then now once you have this entity, now your business is operating as this entity over here. So you have to remember, you have to file the tax return as that entity. And depending on the structure of it, it maybe just passes through income to you or keeps it there at a different tax bracket. But because it's his own entity, like you're saying, if someone were to sue, they can only go after the business assets. They cannot come after your personal
Personally.
financial assets, your mortgage, all of that. So, when we talk about money, it is very important. And honestly, most of the time as a CFP, I'll just say, even if you're not really there yet, maybe think about incorporating just to get that kind of liability protection, because obviously we're trying to create wealth for people. And the last thing we want is for, some event to destroy any wealth. Yeah,
Absolutely.
destroy any wealth that you work so hard to create.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I also am a big advocate aside of the liability on incorporation, because there's so much that you can write off legitimately from your company that if it's just you personally, you don't have those tax breaks that you have as a company. So sometimes, people that I mentor, they're like, I don't want to pay the $800 tax, but you're paying it more because you're not able, you can write up so much more than the $800. So, definitely it's a choice, and every business is different. So you'll get to decide, but we're going to have a few examples here to see what our audience thinks, and obviously what do you think? We have a chart that hopefully we're going to be able to put up in a little bit. And if we don't have the chart, we'll just talk through it. But it's like for a hypothetical business called Wear Your Roots. And this is a boutique, right? That oh, my notes went away because this came on. Okay. I have it here. I'm so sorry. So this company in particular, right? We see it's amazing, and it's infusing modern designs with Aztec and Mayan art, and this is a great boutique. Now, this is an online store, so there's no brick and mortar, as we call it, or no storefront, right? It's a single owner. She has no assets. She's really, really young. She's been 2 years in business. She thinks she's going to make about $100,000 this year, and she wants to know if she should stay a sole proprietor or she should incorporate. What does the audience think? So, no assets, no storefront, nobody that can come and trip in her store and sue her. She's selling this, let's say, through Instagram. And she thinks she's going to make $100,000 is less relevant because you could be brick and mortar and make $10,000 and you still would want to incorporate. But what does our audience think? Should she stay sole proprietor or should she incorporate? We want to hear from you in the chat. What's the group consensus on this? We'll give it a couple of seconds, not minutes, because we don't have minutes. And then I'd love to hear from you, Brittney. What would you do? What would you advise the owner of Wear Your Roots boutique?
Oh, sole proprietor, I see. I did see one incorporate. Oh, another one. Incorporate. Sole proprietor.
I guess there's no wrong or right answer, to be honest. So for everybody who said sole proprietor, I think we would incline that you're still kind of safe, right, to be a sole proprietor, but there's never a wrong time to incorporate. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Absolutely. I would say there is kind of no right answer other than you should choose what you think is best for you and talk to your professionals, whether it's your own attorney or CPA accountant that you're working with. But in this case, I would say she probably is okay staying as a sole proprietor. But if she starts to make more and then obviously acquires more personal assets, I would say in the next year or two, definitely consider incorporating. The only reason I would say incorporate right away is also, I think there's some sort of, maybe you've experienced this, but there's some sort of level of, I don't know how to say this, like it becomes more formal. Like, I have a business, it's incorporated, I'm paying this $800 tax fee every year now to make a tax return for this business. All of a sudden, it just feels like a little more serious. Whereas a sole proprietor, sometimes it just is like, oh, I have this business, and I'm not saying for her. Yeah, it's a side hustle. I just like sometimes track my spending and expenses, but it's not really that organized. So sometimes just making the step, even if you're not fully ready, is good. I mean, that's what I did. I started S Corp day one. There was no sole proprietor, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And also, she's not making $1,000, right? That you're like,
just making good enough. Yeah,
$1,000. I don't want to pay, the yearly taxes on it. like $100,000 is a lot of money that she's, I'm sure, leaving on the table as a sole proprietor of tax write-offs that she could be having as a business legitimately. So I personally would incline to incorporate as well. But she is safe as far as like asset protection. She's safe staying like this for a little bit. But I do think that she could get so much more out of the business and out of her write-offs if she incorporated. Okay, we have a second example. The second example is another online fashion business. We are into online fashion business here. And this is a husband and wife. They have a couple of kids and they're both the owners of the company. Okay, they've been at it for 5 years already. They are making $500,000 a year. That's a lot. And they are homeowners. Okay, so we want to ask our audience, do you guys think they should be an LLC, which is obviously incorporated, a sole proprietor, which we've talked a lot about, or an S corp, which is a little bit one level up from an LLC? And I don't know, Brittney, if you might mind for 30 seconds even giving us the difference between an LLC or an S corp, C corp.
Yeah, usually I would say in this case, they could either do an LLC or an S corp. Actually, LLCs and S corps are very similar because they pass through any business income to the owners. So in this case, there's a husband and wife. So like if they would split, depending on how much each owns, I mean, let's just say it's 50-50, right? Each person would get the pass through whatever business income to their personal tax return as their personal income. So, you know, they're very similar in that pass through, LLC and S corp. So sometimes it just is more about what's easier to set up. And it also, if it's like what I think about incorporating too, I always think about retirement plans, like which one would be better for multiple owners. I do find though, a lot of LLCs, in my experience, I've done financial planning for 15 years, like most LLCs are usually related to real estate. That's what I find them most used. Like LLCs are when they hold real estate together as partners, like any partnership like that. And S corp is usually if it's a single owner business. A lot of people like myself, I have an S corp, I'm a single owner, 100% owner. You know, that just made the most sense. But the corporation, I would say the C corp is where it's a whole separate game, because when you have a C corporation, there's an actual tax return bracket for the C corp. So it's no longer a pass through. It's actually this corporation.
Like the level of
like the highest level. The corporation is paying corporate taxes and you're an employee, whereas the LLC and S corp, it's considered pass through. So it does pass through to your personal income tax bracket. So in this case, I would say they definitely should incorporate, maybe talk to their tax accountant and figure out if the LLC or S corp is the better one.
Yeah, perfect. Excellent. Okay, good. All right, we're going to move on to our topic number 3, and that is using digital bookkeeping tools, which we touched upon very briefly at the top, which I am a big advocate for, because I come from a generation where we were there like in our yellow pad, and then later at least we had Excel, and then now, thank God, we have QuickBooks. I think I've been using QuickBooks since I'm like in my early 20s or late teens, and it was game changing the moment I started using it. So love to hear from you. I'm sure you are a big advocate, Brittney, of why we need, well, first of all, what's your advice to manage bookkeeping? And obviously we are in 2021, right? There's a lot of technology available to us. And first, what's your advice in managing bookkeeping? And then why should we consider doing it digitally versus having, I remember those like massive boxes of files that you had to keep for years, and you had to rent like a storage to put all your files. It was crazy. Probably a lot of people in this generation never had to deal with that, but that was definitely
But you know, that's like you actually learn really great, valuable lessons, because there is so much more probably maintenance and awareness with money because it was so manual. So I would say use technology as much as possible. Bookkeeping is extremely important. So the way that I describe it is like, just like you have your budget for your personal financial life, you have your bookkeeping, which is basically like your budget for the business, right? Money coming in and looking, where does all the money go? Like, that's what bookkeeping is, right? Tracking the money, and looking at it. So there's many tools like, Google Sheets. You can use some sort of online spreadsheets. I definitely use QuickBooks online. I've been doing that for years myself. I actually also use a yellow pad, believe it or not, sometimes. So I like a combination of a lot of things, because I think there's when I'm brainstorming like monthly goals ahead and all the things I need to remember, sometimes it keeps it simple. But I would say, a lot of times people are afraid of the numbers, or it's daunting. Like, numbers are sometimes very daunting for people. And I would just tell you, you're not alone. Even me, I was in personal finance, like legitimately qualified as a certified financial planner. And then I launched my business and I was like, oh yeah, I know business finance, I know bookkeeping. And I didn't know. I had to learn a lot and I still have to learn. So you're not alone. But luckily there's many resources. Like, I know QuickBooks has webinars and tutorials of even how to use their products, and there's tons of videos out there that will teach you the basics of bookkeeping, even understanding, I think, what a profit and loss statement is. Like, what does that mean? The way I tell people, profit and loss statement is basically like your personal budget. It tracks all the income coming into your business and then all the expenses. We just call it a profit and loss. So you can see at the end of the year or at the end of the month, whenever you're looking at this profit and loss statement, are you positive? Are you negative? Where is your money going? Is that good with you? Do you need to make more money? Do you need to make changes to the way you're spending the money? And then the balance sheet, which I think is the other big financial statement for a business, is basically like your business net worth, right? So showing what business assets you have and what business liabilities. So I always like to put those side by side, because I think it helps people understand, like, you would have your personal budget and your personal net worth statement. Then you have your business profit and loss and your business balance sheet. And so bookkeeping just helps organize all of it. You link your accounts, you look at the reports monthly, make sure it's all reconciled and accurate. And then the nice part is, if you do this, it's easier for tax time, right? Because it's all organized and it's easier to get loans.
To go, right? Instead of you like, oh my gosh, now I got to cramp to every single receipt, every single credit card statement, put it up. I've been there, like sweating it at the end of the year. And I was like, never again. It's always up to date. And that is just right? Particularly for business. I know the SUMA team, which they love to do like fun memes and stuff like that. They prepared some fun.
Oh, let's see.
On what's old school bookkeeping, and then also, what does it look like? That was me. That was me years ago in my storage. And then now I'm like on the right, very excited that I get everything done by technology. But also, something that I've seen a lot with a lot of entrepreneurs in our community, because we are a lot of okay, an LLC, but it's owned by you and your husband or something like this. Is that we've created like a fake bank statement there that they're going to show in a second. And it's like, it has like all your business stuff. And then all of a sudden it's like tickets to Bad Bunny concert or like shoes or whatever it is. And we're like, no, like that is an absolute no, that even if you are the sole owner of a company and you're incorporated, you should not be like commingling your personal bank account with your business bank account. It is just horrible. You're going to get into so much trouble if you get audited. Also, it's going to be a nightmare when you do your taxes. But what are other pros, Brittney, in your perception, or in your experience, not perception, of why having a business account is critically important?
Well, like you said, it separates, right? So no more commingling. So you can actually, like, as a business owner, you need to be able to look at your business profit and loss and say, is this good? Am I doing good? Am I making money? Like, that is going to tell the story of your company. So if it's all commingled, it's so difficult to look and say, it's working, I'm making money, or if I'm not making enough money, what changes do I need to make? So that's number one. Number two, I'd say, like we already talked about for tax time, like it's all organized when it's separated, right? There's no backtracking, figuring out, oh, but I think I bought the computer that I could write off and it was with my personal, no, anything business related, you just run through the business account.
Yeah.
And then that way there's no more extra work at the end of the year. And you could just you can look online what business expenses are deductible, what should be ran out of the business account. And then the last one is just getting loans, qualifying for loans. Actually, the Intuit QuickBooks Small Business Insights, they did a study, 61% of Latinos said it's challenging to get loans or financing, as opposed to 47% of non-Hispanic business owners. I would say just in general, getting loans is very difficult. Getting business financing is very difficult. So the easier you can make it on yourself by keeping it separate and organized. If you could go to the bank, to the SBA, to whatever investor, finance person, and say, here's my business financials. Do you want to give me money or not? Like, the easier it is to say yes to that, right? Because they can see, oh, your business is bringing in this type of income and these types of revenue streams, and you're managing the money very well. You know, you're not overspending in certain categories, and you're very aware of the financials. So I guess we can't stress enough, the financials are very important. It's going to make or break the business long term. And I'm sure you too, I've heard so many horror stories throughout the years of business owners, because as an entrepreneur, we're so busy, right? You're like launching the business, managing the team, getting the clients. So you think, oh, I'll take care of the finances, eventually I'll get to it. They either lost a lot of money because no one was really caring as much as you care about your own money. So they either had bad people working and not doing their books well, or missing opportunities. So I think the sooner you could get in there and learn and understand and continue to learn and understand, the better. I do think getting the right systems and technology is going to be your ally. And then maybe even hiring help, a good CPA, a good tax accountant, even if it's just to get you up and running, is going to be worth it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. No, I absolutely agree. I think all of this is absolutely great advice. And we'd love to ask for our audience who's watching, do you already have a business account? Do you plan on getting one? We're going to make it a 2-for-1 question, because I missed the last one, which was what reasons do you have to use a bookkeeping tool? Why do you think it's important for your business? And remember, the more participation, the better, because we are going to be giving away these 10-year subscriptions. Well, 10 one-year subscriptions to QuickBooks. So the more participation, the better. Were you going to say something? Did I interrupt you? I apologize.
No, I thought it was a 10-year subscription. I was like, we better get those people to purchase.
I was going to start putting on my own answers too. I'm like, I want the 10-year subscription. I want the 10-year subscription.
A 1-year subscription is amazing. Okay.
Exactly. Okay, well, moving it right along, because we want to leave some time for Q&A, which we know we have a lot of questions. Is expanding your payment options, right? Using different payment options. Why should we expand payment options? Obviously, it kind of makes sense just to cater to all the different types of customers. But which are the best options that you recommend, Brittney?
Anything that makes it easier. So we have so many online tools nowadays to get payments and in faster, right? So one, think about your customer. If it's one step easier for them to pay you, then great, they're going to do it. I mean, I think with online products, like when you're shopping online, of course you have to check out online. But think if you're a service-based business, or maybe you're an offline-based business, you want to have it super easy, like a link and they pay, or a swipe and they pay, or an immediate app transfer of money and they pay, So the sooner you could get on board to all of that technology, the sooner you're going to get paid. And cash flow is one of the hardest things to figure out as a business owner. And I don't know, for me, it's been the biggest learning and headache of my whole business career, is figuring out cash flow and refiguring out cash flow. So the more efficiency you can bring to get your money in, immediately, the easier your life is going to be, because then you could pay your employees, pay your business expenses, pay yourself, save your money, that sort of thing. But I think it's just, sometimes I hear business owners say like, oh, I don't know, I don't trust, this technology. And I think, okay, well, I understand the concern, but the reality is most everything's online. So get what you need. Most of these services are very secured. I mean, of course, you need to oversee them and do your own part of like protection of security, but don't avoid it just to the point where you want to stay old school and not, because your customers eventually, I hate to break it to you, but if it's going to be a pain in the butt and they have to go the extra mile to pay you, whether it's like bringing cash or a check or I don't know, some weird way that you want to accept payment, they're going to eventually find someone who's going to be easier for them. Maybe not right away, but eventually they will. And so you have to keep up with the times.
And the generations are very different, right? Like, I never have cash, but like my daughter is always like, well, do they take Apple Pay? Like if they don't take Apple Pay, she's not going to pay for it because she only has her phone. I'm like, why don't you have your wallet? Why don't you have your credit card? I have my credit card, but I don't have cash. My mom might have cash. So you have to know your audience, going back to your business plan and who's your audience and who your business is catering to. Having options is very important because it's in your best interest to accept as many forms of payment as possible. So I think their technology has been so disruptive in the payment ecosystem that now there's so many different options for small businesses. Before, it used to be incredibly expensive to have a credit card terminal. Now those days were over. There's so many competitors in this space that really want to cater to companies like yours that are like small business owners that are starting out. They'll work with you. They'll have much lower fees or no fees if you're a small vendor. So take advantage of that for sure. Okay, excellent. Well, listen, we have one last example before we go to questions and answers, and just to see where our audience thinks, right? So this is another hypothetical Latino entrepreneur. So it says a Mercado style guitar shop and sells, the name of the shop is Strings Attached. We also have the name of the shop, but we should show the graphic again because it's so cute. The seller offers guitars with Latino country flags on the guitar body. Okay. And they have an Instagram page. And what we want to show is what types of options, 2 or 3 different types of options, and ask about the pros and the cons of each. So cash, credit card, and mobile, swipes and apps and all of this stuff. What would be the most important for a online store, right, that offers these type of guitars? Like, what would you guys think? What type of payment should they be focused on? And then we'll hear from Brittney. I guess it's the payments, and then we had a question of like, from a business owner point of view, what are your biggest headaches and challenges when it comes to non-cash options? If somebody's like, just like what Brittney was saying, either I don't trust these institutions or these names, or I think they're going to hack me. My mom always says that. So she likes to go to the bank because she thinks they're going to hack her on the app. I'm like, no. And also it's insured, but anyway, that's another conversation. But from your point of view as business owners or potential business owners, what are the biggest headaches you have when it comes to non-cash options? And what would you think is the best idea for this Mercado style guitar shop, Strings Attached, to take cash, credit card, or any other sort of mobile payments? We'll see in the chat, and then we'll get, well, Brittney, you can start giving us your point of view.
Yeah, well, in this case, I would say it makes sense to take the credit card and mobile payments.
And we're seeing that in the chat too.
Yeah, that would be the same. And I think just in terms of the biggest headache to not get these things with non-cash, well, I guess with the non-cash cash options, the biggest headache I've experienced is like the fees. There's merchant fees sometimes to do these transactions, and sometimes the delay. Right? Like the delay. But like, as you said, there's so many services now that are coming into the marketplace to remove any delay of transferring money from you to me. Like, just think about ACH transfer. It could take 5 days or 2 days, depending. Now it can be more immediate, less fees. So I think technology is only going to help us all with that. But I know too, there are a lot of companies or businesses that really only want cash or check, because then they don't have to worry about fees, which, depending on the type of business, it can add up, those credit card transaction fees and whatnot.
Right, absolutely. Okay, well, great, excellent. So we are, oh my gosh, 1 minute. We have one extra minute to go through Q&A.
Woo!
So I'm very excited because I'm one that gets very excited with a conversation and I'm always running over. So today I've been on point. Thank you for keeping me on track, Brittney. So there's a lot of questions that are unrelated one to the other, but everything that we've been talking about, I'm going to go through them. If you can help me too. Some of them we already have answered as far as like resources for business plans, revenue goals, all of this stuff. This is one particular one that says, I owned a restaurant, and when I went to ask for a loan, the first thing they asked me was for a business plan. So I guess making the case of the business plan. I wrote it, and then that's when I knew I could not maintain it. I ended up closing 6 months later. I use business plans ever since. So crucial. Thank you so much, Irma, for that. It's almost, sometimes it's not so much for the other people, but you want to know that your business is viable, that you're going to be spending all your time, days, nights, weekends, pouring your heart and soul into this business. And if it's not going to be something that is set up to succeed, you want to know early on. So that's an excellent point. Thank you so much for giving us that real life example. Somebody else is asking, do I need an attorney to help me start a sole proprietorship? I don't think you do. I think you could do it on your own online, right?
Yeah, that's like the easy part of sole proprietorship. You do not need an attorney. Actually, you just like would register your name, like the DBA, and depending if you want your own website, register a domain name for the website, and you're kind of then up and running. And hopefully, though, you've learned, even though you're sole proprietor, to keep that separate bank account for your business expenses and income. So even though you're not technically incorporated, you still don't want to keep business and personal money commingled. So sole proprietorship is really easy. No commingling.
I think something that helps me a lot, just because, I, in the past, I'm now solely focused on SUMA, but in the past I had like a production company with my husband and my consultancy and my foundation. And I just have different credit cards, right, for each one. Yes, so I know like, okay, I have to pay the soccer fee for my son's AYSO, that goes on my personal. Oh, I need to pay the rent, for my office, that goes on my business. So that keeps it completely, aside of the bank account, also keeps me very disciplined on how you're spending the money into your personal or your business. So that's always a good thing to have. And then that way you don't have to be splitting in your same bank statement, as we showed before, like shoes and computer. That's just never a good thing. And if God forbid you're audited, that's just a horrible red flag for whoever audits you, because wait a second, were you buying personal? Then they're like, let's check 5 years back. And you're like, oh my gosh, you might have all the good intentions and have never done anything wrong, but just the hassle of them just being there for so many months, asking you, questioning you, you having to give it, you never want to do that. I was in one of those situations. I had nothing to hide, and it was all good, but it was a lot of a waste of time. So you want to always have it separately. Somebody's asking something interesting. It's like, do I have to pay more taxes if I have a DBA? No.
No, the DBA, remember, the DBA is just to say doing business as. It's literally kind of just registering your name as a business owner, which is important because you want to like kind of own that business name, right? You don't want to be doing business as a name of someone else, and there can be like legal confusion down the road. Yeah, but there's no extra taxes just for having that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So don't be concerned about that. If anything, we say, as you incorporate, particularly as an LLC or up, you have more room to write off a lot of things on taxes that are perfectly allowed as a business owner, that you would not have if you were just yourself. So I say, don't be afraid of that. I think it goes the other way around. Somebody's asking, should I do my own bookkeeping or hire somebody?
Ooh, good question. I would say a combination. I do think it is very important for any business owner to learn the bookkeeping and learn how to read books and understand the financials. So if that means you start it and then pass it off to someone to help maintain, but you still do check-ins over, everything and oversee it, or maybe you hire someone right away to teach you how to do it on your own. So then you can just operate it if you really feel like you have the ability to commit the time to doing it well. But I just want to encourage, like, no one's going to care about your own money other than you. Not to say that you definitely want to hire professionals along the way that you like and trust and who are credible, but you still have to be in the driver's seat of your own money, meaning keep your eye on the money, no matter how small or big your company is, how many players are involved, because it's just the reality. Like, it's your livelihood, right? This is why you're working so hard to make an income. And if there's, any errors happening or anything that you're missing, like, I just think there's a lot of opportunities people miss because they don't get in there and learn. Even like with retirement, like saving for retirement, investing money into retirement accounts. If they're not learning how to operate their business finances, they might never fund a retirement account through the business. And that actually can hurt us financially long term if we're not saving for retirement. We're working so hard in this business, but it's never creating wealth other places. That's not going to help us long term. So I think it's really important to get in there and learn.
Absolutely, absolutely. Here's a question that I'm sure, it's come up several times. So definitely I want to get to it. So it's like, what are more or less the costs of registering a business? I guess she means like an LLC versus a DBA. I remember when I did my DBA, I was surprised that it was so inexpensive, but
yeah,
it was like nothing. But I don't know if you have the numbers more or less.
It's relatively cheap. I want to say it's like $100 or less to register, just depending on what type of service you do. Because some counties, like I'm LA County, so they'll make you file. I don't know if you did this, but they'll make you file like a fictitious name in like a local newspaper. So there's services that will do it all for you and just handle those things, and you just pay the small fee to do it. It's very, very nominal to register a DBA. Setting up the S Corp or LLC is a whole separate category. So by the way, if you have an S Corp or LLC, you still do a DBA. So it doesn't mean it's one or the other. But when you do those legal entities, you usually either hire an attorney. I would suggest hire an attorney to do it. They draft actual documents, and that costs a fee. And then, like you said, there's doing the tax return for the business every year, which could be an extra fee, paying the annual taxes owed, which is an extra fee. But with those extra fees come benefits of more write-offs, more formality, more liability protection, easier to have an exit strategy. Like, so when you want to sell your business or bring on partners, there's already this company entity being done. So you're just kind of like already ahead there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know now you could do it online too. I mean, I always have done it with an attorney, just like you. But I know now there's so many services that are so much more cost efficient that you could do online. So just do your research, and
yeah,
it could go from, instead of $100, it could be $1,000 or $1,000 plus. But again, don't be scared of the number. That will be a write-off also, right? So that you'll be able to write off from taxes as well.
Yeah.
So, depends on at what stage your company's at, where you're like, well, no matter what, I'm going to have to pay a few $1,000s in taxes. Now's my time to do all of this because that can go into my write-off. So you always sort of like need to be smart on where your money and your investments are going. Okay, we have so many more questions here. Let me see. There's one here that says, can there be an LLC with an S Corp designation?
I believe, yes, that's how you file. That's a tax CPA question.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know.
I mean,
maybe we need to do a session with the CPA.
Yeah,
so if there's enough interest,
yeah,
we will do that. And we also have our You know, we've had tax sessions before, before taxes, where people can ask all their tax questions. So
Oh,
we'll
nice.
make sure that we
Yeah,
get.
that's helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. Excellent. Okay. Um, Somebody wants to get more resources and information for setting up a foundation. Do you know, that's
Mm.
interesting too. So a foundation, I guess, as a nonprofit, as a 501c. I don't know where, I mean, I'm sure there's resources online as well.
Yeah, there are. I'm trying to think of any direct resources I know. I feel like too, you would want to consult an attorney to set up the
Yeah.
foundation. But
I have
maybe
a
start at,
foundation, so I want to say, like, that was the most expensive of any company I've ever incorporated in my life, because there's so much scrutiny in that
that's
goes
hard.
on the IRS, and for you to get approved, for you to get this, it's very lengthy process, and it's not inexpensive, for sure. But listen, I still did it, and I think it's amazing that we want to give back and we want to set up nonprofits, but it's definitely not as easy as saying I'm going to do a DBA or even an LLC. It's definitely a lengthy process. It's one that gets very much scrutiny, because as you get so many other write-offs by being a nonprofit, or you can give people tax write-offs, there's a lot there. There's like a big, you know, lupa, like we say, you know, like people are very, very particular in how they're looking into that. But I'm sure there's resources online, or if not, we'll make sure to put them up on a future SUMA post as well. Somebody was asking, what do you need to open a business bank account? Like, do you just show up at the bank and say, I want to open it? No, because every time they ask for a ton of paperwork, no?
They ask for your DBA for sure. They want to
Right.
see your name is registered. Usually
Uh-huh.
that's it. If it's an S corp, they might want, or an LLC, they might want to see your corporation documents just to verify. There's like usually I forget what it's called, like a declaration page, almost like the financial and corporate. Then you bring that page in. That's it. Like, but yeah, you have to have those two pieces before you can just open up a business bank account. Because what you have to remember is the business bank account is going to be under some business name. So they need
Right.
proof of
That
that business.
exactly,
And
exactly.
if it's a corporation, then it's actually going to be under the corporate EIN number, not your social security. So if it's under that, they want proof of the corporation. So just keep that in mind. But it is
Perfect.
so important to do that step. Please, everyone, if you take away one thing, do that, because it's going to make your life easier to
Yes,
get loans down the road,
everything,
monitor cash
everything.
flow,
Credit card,
everything,
exactly,
credit
exactly.
cards, bookkeeping, all of it.
All of it, all of it. Well, we have just a few minutes to wrap up. I have, you know, one final question that I think is super important, and somebody's asking us, does QuickBooks have real people that can guide me on using their tools? I know, for example, for me, which I mentioned, I'm a avid user since my teens. I took a course, right, and I was able to go through the. I didn't do it with a real human, but it was super easy to do. But do you know if they have real people, is the question, that can help on using the tool?
Well, there's definitely the help and support team. So I would say, yeah, they
Love it.
have that available if you're, but I would say like watch some of the tutorials, figure out what specific questions you have, then call the help or support team, and then talk to a real person to walk through those questions. But I think it's always helpful to kind of play around yourself first with the product and tool, because then you'll know for you, your business, right? Like, what do you need help? So when you get that call, you actually know your questions to ask, and I think that's very valuable.
Absolutely. Okay, well, great. Well, listen, just as a recap, we learned a lot today. We want to remind everybody of the following things that are critical to running a successful business. Make a business blueprint, like you need one to build a home. That is your business plan. We have said that is critically important. Make sure you have a great name for it, that it's catchy, that it's going to survive into the future, like you had mentioned before, and make sure to register it, because then it means it is absolutely yours, just like you would do when you go to baptize a little baby or a little sobrinito. It says here to throw the file cabinet out. I still have some cabinets that I haven't thrown out, but certainly I highly, highly encourage you guys to try a digital bookkeeping tool, because it is so much easier to do for sure. And maybe you can use your file cabinet for something else. Use a separate bank account, please, 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 for no commingling. We've said this a few times, between your personal and your professional, and no more money under the colchon. That is just the worst place to keep your money for sure. And establish different payment options. You want to be able to give your customers whatever option they want to give you money in. So don't be afraid of technology. Don't be afraid of change. And just look at your options and see what companies make you feel comfortable. But there are plenty in the space that would love to be in business with you and understand your concerns, and they'll work with you as well. So I think, with this, I want to end with a very positive note, and a very positive stat that we got from our friends at QuickBooks. It says Hispanic or Latino businesses are growing 34% over the last years, compared to only 1% for other small businesses. So think about that, right? We are leading the charge when it comes to growth of small businesses. It is us. It is our community. We are here to support you. We are here to help you grow even more. And this is very, very exciting. But also, it says 76% of Hispanic business owners are obviously open to using resources to address their obstacles, just like we talked about, all the tools that are available, obviously QuickBooks being one of them. So continue to be open, continue to be part of that 76% that wants to continue to grow and expand their businesses. And we are all here for you. We cannot thank you enough for being part of today's Dinero session, brought to you by QuickBooks. Please follow us on our social media, which is we are SUMA. Please follow our amazing friend and expert Brittney at Brittney Castro, 2 T's, but I'm sure you already follow her. And about the winners of the 1-year subscription, we are going to be posting that on our social media tomorrow. So please pay attention to that. And yeah, thank you, QuickBooks, for leading this session, for helping our community continue to grow in their entrepreneurship and grow their small businesses. We are incredibly thankful. I don't know if you want to add anything, Brittney, before we say goodbye.
Oh, it was a pleasure to be here with you. Thanks to QuickBooks. Thanks everybody for watching and joining. I'm right there with you. I think keep going, do amazing stuff. It's needed and it's not easy, but you're not alone. And I love everything SUMA is doing to help entrepreneurs and just everybody with their money management. I think it's wonderful what you're doing. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And to everybody watching, just remember, sí se puede, and we are here for you. Thank you so much.